Mike Tyson made $300 million punching people in the face. By 2003, he was $30 million in debt. $300 million earned, $30 million in the hole. How does that even happen? And here's the part that should terrify you. The same thing that destroyed Mike Tyson's fortune is probably destroying yours right now. You just don't know it yet. Americans now carry the highest credit card debt in history. Translation? You learned absolutely nothing from the last financial crisis. Debt is an invisible chain being carried by the country's most vulnerable people. And before you think this is just about poor financial decisions by broke people, let me hit you with something that will blow your mind. A study found that 1 in 10 people earning over $100,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck, 6 figures, and they're still broke by the end of the month, which means the problem isn't how much money you make. The problem is something far deeper, something the education system will never teach you, and something most people will die without ever understanding. So let me ask you a question. What is money to you? Does it enter your life and immediately disappear? Has it ever made you vulnerable? Vulnerable enough that you almost fell for a get-rich-quick scheme or some guru selling you a course promising financial freedom? Your perception of money is more important than your ability to generate it, especially when your brain is literally wired in ways that prevent you from being financially intelligent. Does it really matter if you're earning 6 figures a year if by the end of that year you have nothing to show for it? Where's the disconnect? It's time we solved that mystery, not just solve it, but give you a completely different framework for understanding money. A framework that's taught in every personal finance course, but somehow missed in 12 years of formal education. Let me ask you something fundamental. What is money? Or better yet, what does money actually represent? When you buy something on Amazon, when you get paid for working your job, what's the real significance of money in these transactions? Money is commonly defined as a medium of exchange, an instrument that facilitates the sale, purchase, or trade of goods between parties. But I don't think that definition tells you anything useful about what money actually represents. Here's a better way to look at it. Money is an expression of value. You hand over a certain amount of money to purchase something because you perceive its value to be equivalent to the amount you're paying. The price isn't determined by you alone, it's determined by the market as a whole. But focus on this one critical point. Money equals value. Why is that so important? Because we give money a moral significance it doesn't deserve. You've definitely heard the quote, "Money is the root of all evil." We look at someone with massive wealth and immediately think they got lucky. Who did they screw over to get there? Who had to lose for them to win? We never ask, what value did they create to generate that money? Understanding that money simply represents value is the best way to understand that money itself is not evil, nor does it make a person evil. Sure, there are scammers who convince you that what they're selling has value when it doesn't, but that doesn't say anything about money. That says everything about their morals. Money simply opens your options and broadens your horizons. The choices you make with that money have everything to do with your own moral compass. So money is an expression of value. Great. Now what? How does this change the reality of someone living paycheck to paycheck or drowning in credit card debt? The simple statement that money equals value changes nothing on its own. It might make you see money differently, but what part of that is actually actionable? To answer that, let me ask you another question. What is your relationship with money? Money will come into your life and it will leave. This is a relationship that's expressed by your income and expenses. A better way to think about it, and I really like this framing, is your production versus your consumption. Money enters your life because you've produced some form of value. For most of us, this value comes in the form of labor, a job. Money leaves when you've consumed something, a Netflix subscription, a new car, a house. We can look at someone's net worth as a direct metric for their relationship between consumption and production. Now think back to those statistics I mentioned at the start. What part of the consumption versus production relationship do you think is broken? Think about yourself for a moment. Consider all the money that has entered your life and left. How much of it do you still have in your possession today, or invested in some kind of asset? Which part of this relationship do you feel is unbalanced or needs improving? The likelihood is both need work, but for most of us, the biggest problem is consumption. Remember that study that found 78% of American workers live paycheck to paycheck? It also found that of the workers making $100,000 or more per year, 1 in 10 were living paycheck to paycheck. You could argue that someone earning 6 figures might want to earn more. But when you're paid a figure that's well above the average wage and well above the cost of living, and you still somehow find a way to spend it all, I'd argue your relationship with consumption needs to be fixed before you even think about your relationship with production. As every wealthy celebrity who has filed for bankruptcy can show us, production means absolutely nothing when you have a problem with consumption. Mike Tyson earned $300 million, $300 million, and went $30 million into debt. That's not a production problem, that's a consumption crisis. Let's talk about the rat race, the endless, self-defeating, pointless pursuit. Sometimes the rat race gets conflated with working a 9-to-5 job. It's a comparison often used by certain individuals to guilt you into buying their programs and courses. But this seems extremely unfair, mostly because it villainizes having a job and excludes the fact that there are people who either love their jobs or are perfectly fine with them, or have aspirations outside their 9 to 5. A real rat race is living on a financial edge, being one paycheck away from broke constantly. A feeling that the moment money enters your life, it immediately disappears, and the more responsibilities you have, the more dangerous this relationship becomes. The loss of a job, an unexpected medical emergency. Any unexpected circumstance can throw your entire financial position into complete turmoil, and consider the mental consequences of living on this financial edge. Your job is no longer an option. It becomes a necessity just to keep funding your lifestyle or to keep paying off debt. To quote Tyler Durden from Fight Club, "The things you own end up owning you." What's the silver lining? It doesn't have to continue like that. The first stepping stone in personal finance is drawing awareness to your relationship with money. This is often done by journaling your monthly expenses, categories like housing, transportation, food, utilities, entertainment, and so on. It's about understanding yourself as a consumer. But this part is tough. In behavioral finance, this feeling is called the ostrich effect. Our tendency to avoid negative financial information. It's that feeling you get when you refuse to look at your bank account after a night out, fearing what it might show. Once you pass this stage, it's time to take control over your behavior as a consumer. This often involves budgeting, deciding each month how much you aim to spend in each category and actually sticking to it. It's about systematically looking at what you consume and finding ways to minimize it. The ultimate goal? Living below your means. In other words, having a lifestyle that still leaves you with enough money to save and invest. Before you ever decide to invest, one of the most common practices in personal finance is keeping an emergency fund. A specific amount of savings you hold in case of emergency. This fund typically holds 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. The idea of living below your means is crucial. Why would we choose to do otherwise? Why would we choose to live a lifestyle we cannot afford? One that places us on this financial edge? I could make an entire video on our cognitive biases. The ostrich effect is just one that affects your financial position. Then there's hyperbolic discounting, our tendency to favor short-term rewards over greater rewards in the future. This is you choosing to purchase a new pair of shoes instead of saving that money toward a future investment. Or there's social proof, our tendency to think and act as others around us think and act. When people around you are buying something, you buy it too. When people around you establish money as evil, you're likely to assume the same. The phrase keeping up with the Joneses summarizes this massive problem of consumption. It's defined as trying to emulate or not be outdone by one's neighbors. They buy a new Porsche, you buy one too. They have nice clothes, you get some too. They renovate their home, you do it too. All in an attempt to impress others or keep up due to social pressure. Only in today's world, the Joneses aren't literal neighbors. They're far more present than that. We're all vulnerable to social approval. We really care what other people think of us. But the problem is we're measuring our self-worth by how many people like what we're posting. The governor of the Bank of Canada stated it perfectly. For most Canadians, debt is a fact of life, at least at some point. To be clear, I'm not saying purchasing an expensive piece of clothing, jewelry, or sports car is inherently bad. I'm not saying consuming is bad. The aim isn't to philosophize about the consequences of a materialistic worldview. It's about drawing awareness to who you are as a consumer. Do you care more about appearing to have money or actually having money? The rat race isn't about working a 9 to 5 job. It's about living life on such a financial edge that you're constantly chasing the next thing, whether a paycheck or a material possession. Your greater life goals and ambitions get pushed to the background just to continue this race. A budget and keeping track of your expenses have proven time and time again to work, to draw you out of this race. It's fun to talk about making money or imagining having as much wealth as possible. But what's the point when your relationship with money as a consumer means losing it all or having to work nonstop just to fund that lifestyle? That is the real rat race. But with all of that said, let's talk about making money. Personal finance channels like Graham Stephan or Dave Ramsey are excellent for learning how to work on your consumption side of the equation. But if there's one thing I wish they spoke more about, it's their ability to actually make money. I understand why they don't do this. It's easier to reduce your expenses and consumption than it is to increase your income when speaking to a mass audience. Giving advice that works for most people is typically the best choice. We see entire communities built around focusing on frugality. The FIRE community is one example, a movement that adopts the strategy of living extremely frugally, saving and investing as early as possible with the intention of retiring as early as possible. Minimalists share a similar view, although more deeply rooted in philosophical positions about materialism. People like Graham Stephan or Dave Ramsey promote strategies that fall in the spectrum of living frugally, saving lots of money, and investing long-term. There's nothing inherently wrong with this strategy. It works for a wide range of people with varying incomes. But let's be honest, Graham Stephan doesn't rely on cutting coupons or living an incredibly frugal lifestyle to make $100,000 to $200,000 a month from YouTube. Dave Ramsey doesn't rely on these strategies to have an estimated net worth of $55 million. These people are utilizing means of production at mass scale. Money is equivalent to your perceived value in the market. The most impactful way of increasing your value is finding a problem in the market, creating a solution for that problem, and selling that solution at scale. This is the entrepreneurial route. A successful business at scale is able to produce massive amounts of value to society such that your production side of the equation grows exponentially compared to a standard job. But this isn't a route everyone can take, nor should they try. It's about reflecting on your own capabilities and whether entrepreneurship is best suited to your direction. That said, increasing your production doesn't have to come from the strict definition of a business. Graham Stephan uses YouTube as a vehicle to produce something, in this case videos about personal finance, at mass scale. It's one reason I chose to create videos on YouTube as well, a vehicle to produce documentary-style videos at mass scale to a point where I can now do it full-time and build a business around it. Producing is about providing relative value to the market in some shape or form. I utilize my skills with acting, presenting, storytelling, and video editing to create videos that I hope are somewhat entertaining and educational. Thankfully, the market responded positively. Your form of production may be developing an app or software that solves a problem you believe the market would pay money for. Or perhaps a fitness brand that's branded extremely well and utilizes its community better than most other fitness brands, as I believe is the case with Ben Francis and what he did with Gymshark. For most people, labor in the form of a standard 9-to-5 job will be their means of production. But this doesn't mean your ability to produce stops there. Understanding yourself as a producer is about understanding ways you can produce value to the market. If you can produce value at a large scale, it means earning money at a large scale. The internet has provided massive opportunities for us to produce something and put it out to the market. Whether the market actually wants what you've produced can only be determined once you've released it. So to summarize, first, bring awareness to yourself as a consumer. Understand what you purchase and why you purchase it by journaling your consumption. Then give yourself a budget to manage and control that consumption. Producing becomes a matter of maximizing the amount of value you can bring into society through a job, a business, or some other means of production. This is a framework that has helped me greatly, as I'm sure it's helped countless others who have a vested interest in making money. Before you click off, thank you so much for watching to the end. You watching to this point is proof that I've provided some kind of value to you. So hit that like button. If you want to see more videos around business, money, and finance, hit subscribe. The question isn't whether you'll escape the rat race. The question is whether you'll understand the game before it's too late. Mike Tyson learned the hard way. You don't have to.